Today we're going to be looking at legato technique. What is legato? Legato is Italian for played smoothly, as opposed to using picking, which sounds very aggressive like this. You can hear the attack of the guitar pick. But by using legato technique, you get a lot more smoother sound. First off, I'm going to look at doing what we call trills. And a trill is two notes played rapidly in succession. Here's example 1. When I am doing this technique, I'm holding a note with my first finger, and I'm plucking the first note, and then I am hitting the fingerboard on the next fret of the note I want to play. When that note is placed down, I can either go up or down, and if I want to go down, I use a pull-off. Now, pull-off is where we pluck the string with our left hand off onto the next note. With legato, it's important to practice building strength and independence in each finger. So here's a few more exercises which you can play to help improve your legato technique. Example number 3. When practicing these exercises, I would start with small bursts. What I mean by this is by only practicing one trill for a minute or so at a slow tempo, so you can hear each note bleed into each other, like this. Now, once you start to gain a little bit more stamina with your technique, you'll be able to play it a little bit more faster. Now, when we use legato technique, one thing I'll be aware of is, as you can hear, I'm practicing with a clean sound. This way I can hear all the inaccuracies in my playing and smooth out any notes which are quieter than the other ones. When I'm practicing legato, I try and make sure each note is consistent in terms of volume and length. Here's another example of how you can use legato in a scale using a rolling technique. Here's how it should sound. Here's exercise 4. It's called a roll because we are rolling our finger along the string and pulling back off. I'm starting on the fret 5, then I'm hammering onto fret 6, then I'm hammering onto fret 8, and then I'm pulling the note back down, and I'm continuing the sequence. Now, this is all very good on one string, however when we cross strings we visit another problem. Keeping the smoothness ongoing through string changes. Here's example 5. Now, when I start this example, I start with a pick. But when I descend to the G string, I'm not picking at all, I'm hammering on the 7th fret on the G string with my little finger. This part of the lick, or the scale, it's very important to get smooth. Otherwise, we can get very boxy sounding licks. It sounds very sequenced. So it's better than playing. Okay. When I come back up to the B string, I'm picking again. So I'm picking when ascending, but not picking when descending. Here's exercise 6. In order to make these legato sequences sound more musical, we can apply different rhythmic groupings or different note orders within the rolls. Here's example 7. It's a group of 6. So we're starting off with our little finger and pulling off to our first finger, and then ascending the scale. And back down. And we can take this through our scales. One other note about legato I'd like to point out is that legato doesn't have to be used for flashy, speedy playing. It can be also used as a different way to phrase a melody or a lick. Here's a quick improvised example. If I was to play this lick picked, it sounds a lot more aggressive and staccato. So. Now if I played that completely legato, we'd get more smooth, more subtle sound. Let's compare that to the picked version again. Legato. One more note about legato I'd like to point out before finishing this lesson is muting. It can be a big issue when playing legato lines, especially when we start using more distortion in our sound. We can solve this problem by using our left hand index finger and the palm of our picking hand to mute unwanted strings. For example, I'm going to play this line here on the G string. Now, my first finger was ever so gently over the B and E strings, keeping them quiet. This part of my picking hand was over the strings lower than the note I'm playing. This should keep the technique a lot more quiet and clean sounding when you're using more distortion. And even in the clean setting, you can still hear unwanted notes if you don't use crit. Well, that sort of thing can happen. Some guitarists even go as far as using fingers on their picking hand on the strings above the note they're playing in order to keep them silent. So we can see here I'm going to play the same line on the G string. I'm going to keep these two fingers on the B and E. Whilst this is fantastic and a valid way of muting, when playing through scales or skipping strings, having your fingers down on any particular string at any time is only going to cause less economy of movement, so you need to keep everything as light as you can, just to keep the noise down.